So Herc, how do I pronounce your legal name correctly?
Well, the E is a long E, and then the I is also a long E. So
Okay.
it's Eraklis.
Eraklis.
Eraklis, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then your last name?
Is
Petmezas?
Petmezas.
Petmezas. He just told me, and I'm gonna fuck this up like immediately. I'm sure. I'm the one that usually gets my last name butchered.
I can imagine.
Ryan, I just want to give you like all the credit for the courage that you're displaying, tackling this, asking those questions, and just taking the reins and running with it.
Right.
All right. So, welcome to Comics in the Making. My name is Ryan Holgerson. I'm the creator of Slackmatic, and I'm joined, as always, by Levi Erickson, the creator of the Big. See, that's what I screwed up. And today, we are also joined by Eraklis Petmezas. Did I get it?
Close enough.
Close enough. We call him Herc. We're going to call him Herc from now on. We're done with that. Herc is the creator of such books as Rabbi Werewolf and the Mr. Munchie and the Greek, which, man, I love this book so much. Not that I don't love Rabbi Werewolf, but, man, I love Mr. Munchie. It's so great. He was doing those as a series of Inktober drawings over several years. And then also, Herc is the founder of Sketch Charlotte, which is a great drawing group here in the Charlotte area. So, Herc, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a real last minute get for us. So we really appreciate it.
No, thank you, guys. I really appreciate you inviting me on. You know, I mean, obviously I've known you both for quite some years now.
Yeah.
I think you're actually the first person like in comics in Charlotte I spoke to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I feel like Charlotte Comic Con used to be in a different location.
Yes, right. Uptown, which I liked a lot, actually.
and I think I ran into you and we just talked comics. And I think that really helped steer me to pick the pencil back up and, intermittently throughout the years. But yeah, so big props to that.
Right. So Herc, first off, why don't you tell us a little bit, like, how did you get into comics? Just like a short rundown, I guess, of your history.
Yeah, man. I graduated from SCAD in '93. I was a freelance artist for, the first probably several years of that time. But back then, it was also a bit rough because internet was in its fledgling stage. So really, to get jobs, you really had to pound the pavement, to send your work out to editors, things like that. So after a while, I realized, I probably need to have a little more steady income because I felt like I was a bill collector, chasing after my checks.
Yeah.
So I got into the printing industry as a production manager. That said, I always created comics. For quite a while in the early 90s, Marvel and DC, used to kind of shop me around about a good bit, but nothing ever really came of it. So I also kind of got tired, but I also did see a lot of the ins and outs of the industry, even at that time. And a lot of the free work, a lot of these organizations try to get out of you. So that said, I kind of got tired of that whole scene. So I started just doing my own stuff. And really, I just kept going from there. I've always loved telling stories. For me, I grew up with not a lot of money, and comics was definitely something that I could buy, and it sparked my imagination. So that's just something that I think we don't talk enough about, especially for me. I mean, English technically is my second language. So even that, reading comics helped me kind of just build my vocabulary for the most part. Yeah. But that said, I've been doing comics both for myself. I do a lot of freelance storyboards, things like that as well. I occasionally dabble in working with other writers if the money is okay. But bottom line is, if I'm going to work with another person, it has to either be something that's beneficial for me or I get paid.
Yeah. No, and
Totally.
yeah, so that's a kind of a great segue as to what sparked us getting you on the show. So yesterday I'm sitting working on my own comics, and I get a message from Levi that's like, "Man, Herc is dropping bombs over here." And we don't have to 100% get into everything, but essentially, you were on a group where a guy was saying, well, he had released this like chart. I went looking for it last night, but it's gone.
Yeah. I don't know. Everyone started reporting him because he started being
yeah. And so, but he had released this chart of here's what you pretty much entitled artists should be charging
right.
for your work. And I mean, and it went all the way down to like what, $10, $25 per page.
Yeah.
It was,
and none of it was more than $50 a page. That's
God, no.
I mean,
it was an awful, like you said, predatory a chart. And what really, as I was kind of going through the feed reading it, what really made me sad was the amount of people jumping on, showing him their work.
Right.
And then as I went through the rest of like last night when I was trying to find it so I could grab some screenshots or whatever, and I was like, oh, he's gone. But just looking at some of the other posts, and I don't think I saw someone asking for a page rate over $80.
Right.
And there were some guys on there asking for $10 to $20 a page. I think obviously they looked very young and probably inexperienced. But can you talk to trying to figure out what the question is here? What is your advice for getting an artist to really have that faith in themselves and to understand what to ask for when it comes to freelance work?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's why I do post on that group, especially, and I mentor young artists, and I also speak at colleges, and I tell people, and you guys know this. I mean, you're not, you're not young men. I mean, you're younger than me, but you're still not young men.
Barely, but yeah.
And let's be real. And look, and I when I say these things, I say it really from also a place of being taken advantage of.
Right.
Like, for instance, there is no exposure. Period. I especially here's the thing too that I always try to really harness into young artists. This person coming to you with their idea, it's their vanity project, not yours. Okay.
Right.
So let's get that out of the way first and foremost. Second of all, if this person isn't even bigger than you in the industry, then what are they really offering you? Nothing. Zero. And you don't even know this dude. It's not like your boys coming to you or your friend and saying, hey man, you want to work on something cool together? That's totally different, but we're talking about people you don't even know. It's not like, Grant Morrison is coming to me and saying, hey, Herc, I don't have a publisher lined up, but you want to work on something? Well, yeah, of course I will, because the chances that he's going to get it published somewhere is pretty high.
Yeah.
But this no-name person that's coming out of the weeds, And here's the thing I also find about most of these writers, they do not know how to write for comics. Do not know how to write because they have not studied the craft.
Awful. Yeah.
Which puts more on the plate of the artist,
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And believe me, again, I know this from experience. I've gotten scripts from people where like one panel has like 5 different actions. And I'm like, guys, that's not possible. This is like 5 panels, really, if really we want to make it interesting looking, And that's another thing artists have to understand. If I have to translate, a script, that's a fee, guys. That goes into the money that I'm doing, this job for. And another thing, and you guys know this as well, drawing a page isn't just the, say, 8 hours or whatever that you are working on that page. No, you have to put in the thought of reading the script, putting it in your mind. Okay. That's part of it. Doing layouts, that's part of it. All of it is part of it. So these people that are charging $80 or less or $10, $25. I'm like, guys, you are literally not, you're not making any money on this. Zero.
Right.
And if you're a traditional artist, I mean, now you're using, paper, pens, whatever, ink, all this stuff. And that's something that I know sometimes it's disheartening when I do talk to younger artists about, but I'm also like, I don't really think people understand the industry. I mean, like, I talk money a lot about with my friends in the industry, a lot. I know what people have made on graphic novels from Dark Horse. And let me tell you, it's pennies.
No, I know. Yeah.
No. And let's be real. These shelves are littered with comics from big name publishers that have come out, graphic novels that have come out with no response from the publisher, no promotion. They come out, the only money you will ever see was that first money that you made on the book. That's it. Because, that promise of, if it goes into several printings and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that never happens anymore. Right. It's rare. Like I said, I mean, these shelves are littered. I mean, Dark Horse. I mean, hell, Dark Horse puts out 10 graphic novels sometimes a month. Gorgeous fucking books. They get lost to time. Yep. So that said, it's like, and I know I push hard a lot, but I'm like, especially for artists, we don't need writers as much as they need us. So don't undervalue your work in any way. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've turned down work from publishers. I mean, back in the day, I was asked to work on a licensed book. They wanted to give me $50 a page, bro. $50 a page.
That wasn't Boom Studios, was it?
It was. and at that time, they really wanted me to draw on model. Later on, they got a little looser where they're like, let artists kind of bring in their, their flair a little bit. But at that point, they weren't. So in my mind, I was like, well, what am I really getting out of this? Nothing. Because let me tell you, my friend Tracy, who worked on Sonic the Hedgehog for over 10 years, he realized, that, man, as much as it was great making money, doing comics, no one knows me. They know Sonic. This line that's here at this convention, getting me to, my signature and whatever, they're here for Sonic. They're not here for me. Mm-hmm. And I never understood. I know. Me and Chris Brunner, when he was still in town, we talked a lot about this because he's like, Herc, man, you're like one of the few people I know that have no interest in drawing as much, other people's characters, and it's not so much that I don't have an interest. I mean, I do it. I would do it here and there. Sure. Absolutely. For money, obviously for money.
Right.
But that said, no, it's never been my goal. It's like, I never understand being like, it'd be like being a filmmaker, right? And being like, my only goal is to work on James Bond movies, like,
yeah.
Like, well, really? Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. So.
I mean, you're speaking my language. The last couple years for me, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm turning people down left and right, but I haven't taken any freelance work the last 2 years. And for me, where it's always been a side hustle, jobs have always just fallen in my lap. They've seen my comics online, they've gotten a book or whatever, and then they're like, hey, would you like to do this? And so I've never gone out to try and find comic work. But this last couple years, I was like, I hate doing it. I hate having a boss already.
Right.
And then to have a boss with something that I love doing just ruins it.
Right.
And like you said, a lot of these writers, they don't know how to write for comics. I mean, I think we could all tell stories about how many times we've gotten a script with like 12 panels on it.
Right. Absolutely.
Or just these panels that are clearly something that we could tell a story in, like a single picture, and they're like, hey, here's 3 panels of picking something up or something like that. And you're just like, okay, you don't need this moment. But then trying to explain it to a writer and they're like, and they get pissed, right. Like sometimes. I can legitimately think of 2 people that I've worked with where I was like, this was a good experience, and it usually sucks, but I like me and Levi, we do talks a libraries and stuff sometimes, and so we've had a bunch of kids coming up to us, and I always push them to do their own thing. I'm like, you've got to have your own IP. I hate to use that word, but it's what it is. Do your own thing, invest in yourself. Don't go looking for a writer. Oh, and honestly, if you're a writer, pick up a fucking pencil and start drawing. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. I mean, I know we've been doing it for decades, but nobody starts drawing and gets worse at it.
Right.
And some of my, well, yeah, look, hey, we're not talking about Frank Miller today. Okay. So, some of my favorite graphic novels, though, and I'm more into like stylistic kind of art,
right.
But I think it's something like Charles Forsman. Charles Forsman's the end of.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, great guy and an accomplished artist. But like his book, End of the Fucking World, is very simple. Right. It's got 2 seasons on Netflix. So One Punch Man, it started out with a mangaka who could barely draw. He got another artist, but still, that's how it started, because he said, hey, I'm going to do this. Right. And that's the tagline of the end of all of our shows, is always just do the damn thing. Because I think so often people need that permission to actually go do the damn thing. And it's like, just go do it.
Right.
It's almost like, Herc, like, I wonder, because talking about the page rates in that group, and that's a good snapshot population sample of where people's heads are as far as being comic creators. But do you think that as a community, comic creators, whether we're artists or writers or what our role is, do you think the group think is we're pursuing an industry that doesn't exist anymore? Do you think?
I mean, let's be real. I have been reading comics since I was a kid, right? The industry's changed a lot since then. Absolutely. And to some degree, I worry at really the longevity of making money at this, because I know, because that's another thing we really could talk about, is that there are so many artists that people think are successful, but they're not even bringing in $45,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, let's be real, and we're talking about Marvel and DC. We're not even talking about some of the indie stuff. Mm-hmm. Kyle Baker told me early on, it was probably 96. I was hanging out with him, and he said, "Herc, the way to continue to be successful in comics is to own your shit. Own your shit." He said, because let me tell you, my graphic novels will stay on the shelf forever, right? He's like, and even Hickman, me and Jonathan Hickman are close friends. We went to high school together, and we talk about this a lot. He's like, Herc, how many times my books have been optioned? Here's the thing. They throw me a little bit of money, right? The movie never happens. The TV show never happens. It's fine. 5 years, it comes back to me again. Mm-hmm. Another company comes to me. He says, hey, here's another 10 grand to option this book or whatever, take the money. It happens or it doesn't happen. When the contract's up, it comes back to you again. It's always yours. It's always yours.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that always really hit me hard. And also because I came out of the indie scene, even in the 80s, we had some amazing comics and and amazing creators, a wealth of creators, especially in America during that time, and doing their thing, man. You had Matt Wagner, creating Mage, Grendel, all these fucking great comics. I mean, you had, American Flag, just ElfQuest. You had hell, Cerebus. As much as, he sadly went off the rails, I will put Church and State and High Society up with the greatest comics that have ever been written and created.
It's wacko, so sad.
Wacko, but my God, High Society and Church and State, I can still go back and I'm like, these things blow my fucking mind.
Yeah, man. I sat next to Dave a couple times, man, and he was such a nice guy, and it broke my heart that he's a fucking misogynist jerk now. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, and I even saw it later on with stuff like Jeff Smith, doing Bone. You had Terry Moore, doing Strangers in Paradise. I mean, you had the second wave of indies coming through, and also just my horror stories, with DC and Marvel. I mean, I had a Creeper series that literally was going to happen. It was going to be a fully painted series. I mean, I wrote the first 2 issues, and then Keith Giffen killed him off in Eclipso. And next thing I know, the editor's telling me, hey, dude, we're going to have to put a kibosh on this for now, And again, I mean, granted, at least I got paid for those, but a lot of the other pitches, they would constantly, and I even saw it with my artist friends. I mean, we have big name artists, okay, that they still have to try out for books. And I'm like, I would tell my buddy, I'm like, I don't get how you need to try out for a book. They see your fucking work. It's literally out on the shelves, right. What do you have to draw a bunch of, Daredevil to show them how you're going to draw Daredevil? I mean, come on. I mean, they've seen your work, but it's all free work. It's all free. They don't get paid for any of it. And when Marvel looks at it and says, some editor looks at it and it's like, well, I don't love the way you drew DD, so we're going to pass, and go with somebody else. Well, you just did a bunch of work for nothing from a major corporation. I mean, and they should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, and they got Disney money, guys. I mean, Disney owns them, so it's not.
I mean, this past week I saw several artists speaking out against Marvel, saying, right. I worked for them for 15 years. I asked for a $75 page rate hike, and they denied it.
Right.
And part of the reason was, well, you can sell the pages for more.
I know, which is bullshit.
Which is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's, I come from my day job for almost 30 years has been in the restaurant industry. It's the same thing that those fuckers do with people that work for tips. And let's pay them under minimum wage. It's exactly what Marvel is telling these artists. Well, we're going to,
And the thing about restaurants, even worse, like I used to get mad because I'm like, all right, well, when my shift is done, I should get to walk out the door. But no, you want me to mop the floor and all this stuff. Well, if you want me to do all this other stuff that's not serving, then you need to pay me at least minimum wage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not making tips to mop the floor,
Yeah.
Or prep the kitchen for the next day,
do your side work and whatnot.
Yeah, but anyway, sorry. But yeah, I just think, it's, and it goes back to what you guys both said, and, I said as well. And, that's why doing your own thing makes more sense. And honestly, I mean, the last freelance comic gig I did, I got paid more than what Marvel would be offering me.
Nice.
Right.
Granted, it'll probably never see anything, no one will probably ever see it but me, but whatever. I mean, I got paid, I wrote it,
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing. It's like, and then what gets me mad is that when I have these conversations, especially in that group, a lot of times people try to flip the script on me and say I'm selfish. I'm like, let me tell you something. My dad was a truck driver. He taught me early on what a fucking scab was. All right. And he's like, let me tell you, son, these assholes that go past the line, the picket line and whatnot, they lose their trucks within a year, because the reason we're asking for more wages is because we fucking know it takes this much money to run this vehicle and also have a fucking life. And these scabs will go in there and go do it for less, right? And you're always going to have that in every industry. Let's be real. But That said, don't turn it around and act like I'm selfish because I want everyone to make a good wage. I don't care if you're living in a country that $100 is a good money. That's great. Good for you. I clap for that. I mean, I don't care. That's great. Yeah. It's like, but that said, if we as an industry don't say, hey man, but this goes, let's be real. I mean, look what's happening in our country. I mean, it just goes, nothing's new. I mean, the corporations will keep taking. I mean, I worked for one of the biggest banks in the whole fucking world. And every year, even after I won awards, we can't give you a raise this year. And I'm like, but you just showed that you made $1 billion in profit this quarter and you can't give your high performer a raise? Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
So it's not anything new. I mean, let's be real. I mean, this goes back to probably the, kings and queens and stuff, his serfdom,
Yeah.
But that said, we need to keep talking about it because, I don't want young artists to be taken advantage of. And we could also talk about how a lot of these colleges are also taking advantage of these young artists, and putting ideas in their heads of what they can and cannot make going out into the real world.
I've had I couldn't tell you how many conversations with kids, going to SCAD. I know you guys are both SCAD guys, so but you know, and I've been there. Great school. I've never, you know, I think the education is great, but to think you're gonna, especially this day and age, to spend that amount of money,
right?
In a sequential art degree,
right?
I'm like, what? Just
and I helped start the sequential degree. You know, I was Bob when Bob started it. I mean, I went out to Dragon Con. I was trying to keep in mind the school was also a lot cheaper back then.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, these kids are getting into $100,000 in debt for a comic degree that they didn't really need to go to school for at all. You know,
no.
So, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my time at SCAD. I still am tight with a lot of my crew that I came up with at that time. And a lot of them did go on into the arts and are, you know, somewhat successful, you know, at it. Some more than others, obviously, you know, but a lot of people didn't. They just literally never drew again. And you just went to college, wasted all this money and time on something that you're not even going to do or pursue, you know, and that's something also, you know, that we need to really, and I talk a lot about it, you know, with younger artists. And had I had to do it all over again, I would definitely not have gone to school for an illustration degree. I would have concentrated more on design. Absolutely. I would have been an art director now. You know, I mean, I know my wife, Erin, she's a creative director. And she's like, dude, you know, if I could have told young Herc, you know, she's like, you totally could have been, you know, an art director. She's like, you know, one, you have the temperament, you have the mind for it, you know, and that's the thing. It's just, and look, and I still would have always done comics. I'll always do comics. I love comics, you know, I'll always do them. But the reality of making a living doing comics, let's be real. I know what even Image, and I know, you know, I don't want to, you know, just, and I know I when I say these things, sometimes it makes people get disheartened about even Image, but I'm like, Image is basically what we used to call printers co-op. You pay them to print and distribute your book, you know, you literally pay them. You know, and if your book doesn't make that threshold, because I remember like my buddy Xander Cannon, when he had Replacement God coming out through Image, I was so excited for him. But he's like, man, by the 6th issue, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to probably go back to self-publishing because I don't even make enough to pay Image.
Yeah,
their fees.
Yeah.
So, and then you're like, well, shoot, I might as well just do it myself because.
Right. I mean, and it's on their website. If you go and you look at their share, absolutely. it's like 12 cents an issue that you're getting after everything is done. You know, do the math. It's not.
I mean, I have one of my close friends did a 4-issue miniseries at Image with 2 big name writers. 2 big name writers. You know how much he made? 0. Literally, fucking 0. Nothing. Yeah. He spent half a year drawing 4 issues.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And I mean, and there's plenty more stories like that.
Sure. You know, and that's why, you know, I think it's funny that we have such a stigma for self-publishing and everything. And it's like, you know, I've gone through Amazon. I know what you're making per copy on this book, Herc.
Right.
And you try and explain that to people, and it's like they don't get it. Because they want that in their head, that prestige of, oh, I'm published by Dark Horse, I'm published by Image or whatever. And I get it.
We're attached to a model that doesn't exist anymore. That's the whole point. People ask, like, what my dream job in comics is, and you know, in 2025, my dream job is doing what I'm doing right now. Right. Because what I would have wanted, you know, when I was younger, it's just not there anymore. You know,
right. No, and that's very much. And the thing is, too, you have to ask yourself, I mean, it's some tough questions, of course, but also it goes back to what you guys are both saying. It's like the stigma of I don't self-publish because people aren't interested in my work. I self-publish because I've seen the contracts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, you know, a lot of these smaller companies, I got into arguments, not really arguments, but a back and forth that when they would send me a contract, I'd be like, well, this little paragraph here says that you want rights to movie and this and that, but what are you going to give me for that? They're like, well, what do you mean? What are we going to give you for that? I'm like, well, we're publishing your book, we're printing your book and distributing your book. I'm like, well, I can do that myself.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, back in the day, I went to Diamond. I had books go through Diamond. It's not very difficult, guys.
No.
Especially if you're doing decent work. But that said, I said, well, I don't feel comfortable giving you something for nothing. I said, if you want rights to something, I would consider it if we're talking about money. And I also said, I want a finite time frame here. I don't want you having rights to the story forever.
Yeah.
That, okay, maybe 15 years from now, you guys sell it for a TV show. It's like, no, dude, I'll give you 5 years after the last issue comes out, or the book's printed or whatever, But I said, I'm not giving it to you forever, especially not for anything in return other than printing and distribution,
Yeah. 100%, Herc.
Absolutely.
Well, we got a couple minutes here. If you'd like to let everyone know what you have out and where they can find it, where they can find you.
Sure. Well, I'm all over, I'm Instagram, Blue Sky, definitely you can find me on either one of those platforms. It's just E and then my last name, Petmezas. And you can always find my books. Oh, I'm also on Tumblr as well. Sorry. I don't have a dedicated website anymore. Although I probably should. I am working on a new book called Spirits. It's a ghost story. It's funny because I love horror, but I rarely ever do horror stories, it seems like. So I wanted to kind of dip my toe back into doing something, especially after Rabbi Werewolf, which is kind of like, I guess, a hybrid, horror kind of comedy. But so anyway, yeah, you can find me there. I have a short story that I'm working on now. I'm finishing up for an actual Kickstarter. It's coming out. It's going to be called Storage Horrors later in the year, which has been a lot of fun as well. Anyway, so that's what I got kind of in the works. I'll be at Heroes Con in Indy Island, and Sketch Charlotte. It's about to ramp up again when the new beer temple opens. So if any of you guys are watching this or are local, please come by Thursday nights, 5 till whenever we get tired and, they kick us out.
Awesome.
It's a great group. It's all inclusive. Really great group of people, very supportive. I definitely urge you to find something like that if you're not in this town, in whatever town you are at watching this, because I tell you, it's helped me immensely grow as an artist, but also see other people's work and anyway. So yeah.
That is awesome, and that is Herc in a nutshell. If you don't know him, that is his effect that he has on people in the communities where he's a part. He's just like the Johnny Comic seed. You putting the seeds out there and making. We're all sprouts of Herc.
I'm not a fan of like getting involved in like internet fights and stuff like that. But yesterday when I was reading that post, I was this close to jumping in going, do you know who the fuck you're talking to? Do you know what he's done for artists? I was pretty pissed, but I chickened out. I hate getting involved in that stuff, but I appreciate you not chickening out and telling them how it is. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
No,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it. I think this is one of our most productive 35 minutes ever. I hope a lot of people got something out of this. With that said, hey, take Herc's advice, listen to what we said, and then just go do the damn thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.